Alright, so hello everyone. I've gotten some questions about this and I've kind of been answering them over Zoom, but I just thought it would be better to just make a video and post it, and I apologize it's taken me a while to do this. And I have pushed out the due dates as far as I can to accommodate for this, but make sure that you're using all of the options available to you. When you are trying to find a book, good suggestions are actually in your textbook. So if you search OpenStax US History, our textbook for this, click the first link. It will bring you to our textbook's homepage. Once that pops up, if you already have it downloaded, this will work. If it's downloaded on a PDF or an app, it's also included in that, but I'm just going to view it online. Once you view it, it'll bring you to the page of the first chapter in the book. If it shows up like this without the table of contents showing, you need to click on the table of contents to bring that up. Usually it pops up that it has the table of contents showing, but if not, make sure you come up here, click on the little box and pull that down. Then go to the very end, scroll all the way down, click on Appendix G, which says further reading. You can also search functions, so if you want to search further reading, it should bring you to Appendix G as well, but this is probably the easier way to do it. And then because we are in a modern American history class, you need to skip through the first chapters and get down to chapter 16. So we start this course at chapter 16, the era of Reconstruction, and we go all the way to the end of the course, chapter 32. So basically you can pick a book for this project from this section all the way to the end. Some of these books will not work, but the vast majority of them will. The books that don't work are the ones that, well, they're the ones that are like picture books. There are some in here that are not picture books, but they're like collections of journals or their first-hand accounts. Those are not as good for you guys to use for this project, but most of them will work. You can tell if it will work by searching it and reading the synopsis. Whatever you pick should be something that is again, a nonfiction book written by a scholarly author. That is going to be your ideal selection, and it's one that is actually a book. So it's not a collection of stories, it's not a collection of sketches or pictures, it's not a collection of photographs, but it is actually a book. And there's not that many on here. I just wanted to warn you that they do exist on that list. Once you have a book that you're thinking of using, leave that tab open because you might not be able to find the book that you want. I just picked a random book off the list, so I think I picked a book on the influenza epidemic because I thought it was fitting for our current situation. Once you find a book, you can go over to the Columbus Metropolitan Library, which is closed, but it's open for ebooks. You can download ebooks. You can see it has access to over 125,000 ebooks and audiobooks for free. Go in, search the Columbus Metropolitan Library, click this link, which will bring you to a page. Oop, I already messed it up. It'll bring you to a page that looks like this. If you do not have a library card, you will need to get a library card first because you cannot check out any ebooks until you have a library card. It's very, very easy to get a library card. It will take up to 48 hours for them to email you your library card, so make sure you get the book in advance. But it's very easy to get a library card. Just click on that link, say that you accept this, basically saying that you'll pay back for the cost of the book if you don't return it. Fill out this information. Whatever phone number you use here, just keep in mind that the last 4 digits of this phone number will be your PIN when you go to check out books. And then submit this. Again, it will take 48 hours for you to get that card. Once you have the card number, you'll be able to check things out. So when you're ready to check it out, you can go and hit browse. What I did was hit browse, sorry. And so I went to explore content, e-content, ebooks and audiobooks. And then if you have a library card and everything, you probably want to sign in. But if not, you can search otherwise. So I just took that title that I got off of the OpenStax page. I'm going to go ahead and search it. They didn't find anything, but this is the book that I was looking for. Since they didn't find anything, I want to go back and find another book. So And if you're not successful with that, because these books have been picked over, a lot of people are using these options and these services, you can go ahead and do just a general search if you really need to. So if you really needed to do a general search, you can do things like that. But sometimes on topics like the flu right now are going to be hard. Like you'll see it's waitlisted. If you want to do a general search, I would do something on that you're interested in on the course topic. So I'm going to do the Vietnam War. Once you do this, if you're searching it on your own and you're not using one of those titles, make sure that you restrict your search. So make sure you come down here and tell it you want nonfiction books, because this has to be a nonfiction book for this assignment. Make sure that you come down here and tell it you want it to be available now, because you need the book now. And make sure that you tell it what type, if you need to restrict the type of book it is, you can restrict that. Tell it you want it probably to be a history book. And I would also recommend that you look at text difficulty. So pick a book that is of a relative text difficulty. These would work. Once you have a book that you want to use, this is history, nonfiction, you can go in and borrow it. Keep in mind that in order to borrow the book, you have to sign in. You have to have your library card, which, remember which library branch you picked for your library card. So I picked the Columbus Metropolitan. You're going to put in your card number, and then you're going to sign in, and then it will ask you for your PIN, and you'll follow the directions to download it then. I'm not going to download this because one of you guys might want to use the textbook, so use this book, so I'm not going to do that. But that's another way to find it if you want to do it that way. Make sure that when you try to find a book this way that you read what it is. So this is a collection of interviews. It's an in-depth look at the United States Marine Corps. It is a national bestseller. I have read quite a few of Tom Clancy's books. They're pretty good. So make sure that it's something you'd be interested in reading before you actually jump in. You can narrow your search or broaden your search however you want. Oops, that should have said Jazz Age. But remember that each time that you do a new search, you're going to have to again go back and put in those parameters. So every time you do a new search, make sure that you go back in and put in parameters. If you come to one that doesn't have nonfiction as an option, I would be lenient about picking it. Or I would make sure that I read the synopsis. This one would work too. It is a nonfiction book. It's a biography, which means that you'll probably have to read more of the book than just the 10 points outlined by the assignment sheet, which are these 10 points. But you can use it. So you can use biographies and autobiographies, but they will require you to read more of the book than what is given here. So you'll probably have to read a little bit more of each chapter than just the first and last paragraph of each chapter. If you're willing to do that, if the book interests you enough and you're willing to do that, that's fine. That as long as it again is nonfiction and it meets the parameters, so it's going to be a book that covers a topic we talked about in the course. So this one would cover that. Houdini is the 1920s, so that would be okay. So these are just ideas to get you guys started. If you are not able to find anything on the Columbus Metropolitan Library, there are local libraries you can check as well. So the Delaware County District Library is my home branch. They also have digital collections. So if you have a library card for Marion, which I did not check Marion yet, you can also check their digital collections. Almost all of them have ebooks available. Probably not quite as many as the Columbus Metropolitan Library, but they do have ebooks available. But again, every time you check a library website, make sure that you restrict the search function. So make sure it's an ebook, that it's available, that it is a nonfiction book, and that will help you narrow down your search. This one would work great for the 1930s and the Dust Bowl if you want to use this one from the Delaware County Library. If it's not available, which this one is available through OneDrive, which is slightly different, then you might be able to place it on hold. You probably will need to have a book that's available immediately because of when this project is due. But you can play around with it until you find a book that interests you. I want to make sure that you're actually reading something that interests you. As a last resort, if you can't find anything on local library websites and if you can't find anything on the Columbus Library website, you can go to OhioLink. So if you search OhioLink, it'll bring you to a page that looks like this. OhioLink is done through OSU and MTC. We pay for some of the journals and some of the databases on here. So you will have to log in using your MTC credentials to actually access these, but they do have an electronic books collection. But you'll notice that once you try to search something, it will immediately ask you for your credentials. Now you will be able to log in if you know your credentials. So if you have your ID, your MTC ID, and if you have this information, you should be able to log in. But it is easier, I will say. It's kind of frustrating, but it is easier to actually use the Columbus Library, I have found. But that's also an option. This is also a place where you can find your scholarly reviews. So if you need to find a scholarly review, electronic journals and research bases are, again, great options to try and find those, but you do have to log in. And then if that won't work, if you can't find anything on OhioLink or you can't log in for some reason, which you should be able to, but I know a lot has been going on, you can check Google Scholar and try and find a review of your book as well. I will tell you, newer books might be harder to find, but you can check Google Scholar. Or sometimes there are reviews on the library websites. You can do that as well. So I hope this was helpful. Make sure that as you're doing this, you go through the 10 steps. Keep in mind, again, I'm sorry I need to update these, but it is now 200 points for these assignments because I'm trying to help your guys with your grade. So if you missed a few assignments when we had this massive transition online, that will actually help your grade by me boosting the point value. And then you do not need to worry about this presentation. You've already met the requirements, learning outcomes with your previous presentation. So I have eliminated this presentation entirely. Don't worry about that at all. You just need to write your 6-page paper on your gutting a book. And generally, you're just going to follow the steps. So a paragraph or two for each one of these, an introduction and a conclusion, and you will probably be good to go. Make sure that you link the book to what we've talked about in the course, and that you cite both the book you're using and the review that you find. And you should be good to go. If you have any other questions for me, make sure that you send them to me. Again, I apologize it took me a while to get this video up, but I will extend that due date a little bit so you guys have some time to find these books. And I'll also try and extend out the final due date as much as I can, but I am restricted on how far I can extend out these due dates because of final grades being due, but I'll extend them out a little bit. So yeah, continue to send me questions if you have them, and find a book that you like.